podcast. We are back with the amazing Dr. Gretchen Frieling for part 2 of our episode. So hopefully all of you tuned into the part 1 episode, which was all about embracing uniqueness, and Gretchen shared some of her secrets to success in building a multi-million-dollar medical aesthetic practice. So we're going to kind of pick up where the last episode left off. So I'm very excited to welcome back the amazing and my good friend, Dr. Gretchen Frieling. Thanks for coming.
I'm so happy to be here again. We had to reschedule once, but we're so dedicated and determined, and we have a lot more to talk about. It was great last time.
Yes, definitely. And it was so good to see you a couple days ago, actually, in Miami and spend some time together. I'm always grateful for any time I get to spend with you. So I'm really excited that we're doing part 2. So if we pick up where we left off, so in the part 1 episode, for those who tuned in, we kind of ended the episode talking about building a team. And Dr. G actually kind of went into something she does that a lot of other providers do not do, which is instead of hiring one injector, training, building them, then hiring a second, she actually talked about how she hired, I believe it was 6 at once. And that's different. But I want to talk about this because I feel like in the industry of medical aesthetics, nationwide, every provider that owns a practice has their own way of doing things. A lot prefer to hire an advanced provider that's already, has good skill with injecting and things like that. And then we have other providers that would rather hire from the ground up and then train how they specifically want their injectors to inject. So I think it'd be cool if we could go back to that conversation, because this is obviously a topic that's challenging for practice owners all across the country, is finding good people, hiring them, training them, and keeping them. So I think it'd be cool to go into just overall your training process of when you onboard that many injectors at once. What skill set are they typically at? And then how do you, what training protocol do you put them through?
Yeah, so there's a lot there. And where GFace started 7 years ago is obviously completely different than where I am now. And I wouldn't have had the infrastructure to support hiring 5 or 6 injectors at one time. So you do have to get there. And I think that's another podcast maybe of how do you get there. But in general, I hire for the personality, the ethics, who they are versus their skill. And what has happened to me is that by default, the majority of injectors that I've hired haven't had training. And I've loved that, because my passion is to create, and not only now create the systems to facilitate their training when I don't even run or organize a lot of those now, but to create opportunities for them that aren't just injectable based, because I believe everyone's going to burn out of injecting. You can't do it every single day, all day long. It gets really boring. And so how do we fuel their minds and passions that, and I think we talked about this a little bit, that I can discover for them and they can discover for themselves. And we just started this position called the lead aesthetic nurse. And this nurse, so my overall business structure is multi-location, hopefully scaling to 20 plus locations, and having aesthetic nurse providers there. NP is required to run that practice, and not just inject, but they will be required and the point of contact for hiring, firing, onboarding, training. They are growing a business. And so instead of floundering around out there because things seem really scary and, there's inflation and there's all of this, and without the support, it's hard to open a practice now, very different than 7 years ago. So they're required to do 6 rotations, 30 days each, in the current locations at GFace. And they learn the business side. They learn inventory management. They learn how to have difficult conversations. They're the point of contact when it comes to clinical management and problem solving. They give lectures to the team. They run trainings. And there's a whole protocol and system in place for them for those 30 days. And it's a huge honor. When we launched this program, I received these beautiful letters from my nurses, telling me why they wanted to be a leader, why they were interested in growing a business, what excited them. And it was just beautiful to read them. And then in the future, when they take on a role as the lead nurse, clinical coordinator, clinical director at another location, they not only take their, get revenue from the injectables that they do, but they get revenue off the after cost, obviously, to run the practice from growing that location. So the sky's the limit. We created an MSO structure for the company so that, for tax reasons and for legal reasons, it's set up that way. And it's so exciting. We just finished our first month of our first lead aesthetic nurse, and to see her growth in not just skill, but her problem solving and her confidence when it comes to just answering questions and knowing facts. You have to sometimes be asked a question that you may think you know, but you don't know, but you do know. And just to say it out loud, to say the answer out loud, gives you confidence. So that's one thing we've done recently. And then when it comes to hiring those, I think it was 5 injectors, and then we added a 6th really quickly after. When I brought those 5 people on, I very much questioned myself, because can I be a support person for all of these new amazing humans? And the answer was no. But at that time, I couldn't let myself lose them. And it was because of their personalities, their drive, their dedication, their belief in G-Face MD, even early on. And of course, that was a risk. There's pros and cons. But through their growth, we've now developed, with their help, a whole onboarding and training program that has not only internal trainings that are almost monthly or bi-monthly now, and it also is a resource for them that has educational articles, journal articles and videos for them to watch. If they're scared to do a treatment, they reference these videos right away so they regain their confidence. So those types of things I actually really love doing. I love building them, and I love having the ideas so my team builds them as well. But some people don't enjoy that. I actually heard someone the other day say, who could ever enjoy the process of building? You don't. You don't want to open a company. It's miserable and blah, blah, blah. I actually love it. And I think it just requires a certain type of personality.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. And just to chime in too, it it's interesting you said that. And I forget the quote, but like there's a lot of quotes out there, on Instagram and so forth, where it's like, it's not the destination, it's enjoying the journey and the process of doing anything worthwhile. And you are right, not a lot of people do enjoy the process. And it does take a special type of person. You have to know how to thrive in constant, almost like uncertainty, if that's the right word to use, especially as you're building. And I didn't know this about you, but first of all, going back to something you said, and I wrote it down, your goal is to scale to 20 locations.
Yeah,
I
at least.
love that. Yeah, at least. Some people are like, I just want 2. Gretchen's like, no, I want 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. And you're certainly on your way there. Obviously, with your 3rd location opening very, very soon. So I definitely want to get into a bit more on that too. But going back to the training that you were talking about. So how many lead aesthetic nurses do you have? Is it just the one right now?
It's always just one right now when
Okay.
they're in training and fulfilling those 6 months of training, and it's here at our home base in Wellesley. So it's just one. And
Okay.
then they'll have to be credentialed internally and pass some, testing and skill tests, and we're still developing that just to make sure that they feel comfortable on their own. Obviously, I'm always available to a
Yep.
fault, but I don't want to set them up to feel like they're going to fail in that role. So there's just one,
Okay.
and they have to be full time. So we
Yep.
had to make a hard decision because we have some absolutely badass part-time people, but the role is a full-time role because you just have to be available. You have to be available for inventory at the end of the day. You have to be available for questions throughout the day. But, I think it's fueled, you know, things in my part-timers that maybe they'll create the space, and time is everything. So, who knows what will happen in the future, but we had to make that difficult decision. And the other really, really cool thing is that the reality is that you have to be a nurse practitioner to be a clinical director, because you'll be signing off on orders and seeing patients for the first time with RNs. So what happened was, when we launched the LAN program Enroll, we had one of our nurses say, I'm going to MP school. And I was like, that is just amazing, because she knew she didn't want to be limited. She knew right now she had a little bit more time. Nobody has the time, right? But she knew right now she had a little bit of freedom. I'm going to just get it done, because then I'll be able to do this in the future. And that was so
Yeah.
beautiful to me. It just shows the dedication. It shows the 100% all in to be the best they can be. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
No, I love that. And it's interesting too on a statewide basis so in mass, to confirm, RNs can inject or they cannot inject.
They can inject, but they can't be a
Okay.
clinical director. They can't sign off
Got
on
it.
their treatments or see a patient for the
Okay.
first time.
Got
So
it.
they need either an MD or an NP or a
Okay.
PA.
Yeah. Got it. And I just want to confirm, because I know it can be confusing for a lot of us in the industry too, just how different states operate and who can, do certain things in one state and then they can't do things on the other. So
Yeah.
good info there. Also, something I want to add. So something, and this is something I love. So your lead aesthetic nurse, you have one. You've obviously, you put them through the 30-day program. I love what you said, because you go beyond clinical. You said you teach them. There's a business component, inventory, having difficult conversations with patients. Like that is
Mhm.
something I don't even know anyone else in the industry that's like, yeah, I put these people through, or this particular person through a training, and I actually talk to them how to have difficult conversations, because that's something where so many injectors and providers struggle so bad, is just having the right conversations and understanding how to effectively sell, because at the end of the day that's what we're doing. But if we want to call it educating instead, we can certainly use that term instead. And then something else I was thinking about as you were going through is, if we think about who a leader is, a true leader in any industry, it's someone that also grooms another generation of leaders. And they
Mhm.
build people up instead of being someone's, boss or whatever it is. They're like their partner, and in some cases a mentor and things like that as well. And that's something I've learned, when you run into people who have really strong leadership characteristics, which is obviously you can you instantly know that, just me listening to how you articulate how you go through this and how you're actually trying to build this next generation of lead aesthetic nurses as you continue to grow and scale. And that's obviously a key to scaling too, is if you're going to have this super aggressive and ambitious plan of 20 plus locations, which I know you're going to do, just because I know who you are, so I'm very excited to watch the future of G-Face. Is, if you're going to build a brand that big, there has to be continuity and consistency with all of your injectors.
Mhm.
So I think you're certainly, you have a very exciting road ahead of you. So I think it was cool to hear more about your program. How long has your lead aesthetic nurse been with G-Face?
She's been with us a little over a year.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So a year
Yeah.
she's gone all in, and now she's going to be lead
Totally.
aesthetic nurse for
Yep.
G-Face. So
Yep.
that's amazing.
And I just want to hit on something before I forget. So when you said consistency of treatments throughout the different locations. So when you grow and open a second location, I think you learned so much. You learn the most. It's going from 0 kids to 1 kid, right? You freak out. And through that, I realized I was giving my injectors the freedom, which I loved, giving them the freedom to use the certain type of needle they want to use for their neurotoxin, to use whatever reconstitution they want to use. And now we don't do that. We have a whole different program that actually, when I launched it, I was like, oh, are they going to feel like they don't want to do it this way? Or is there going to be some pushback? But it's actually encouraged them. And they realize now they have so much more flexibility with their minds. So creating formulas and giving them the tools to transition between many different reconstitutions. But we do have set materials and supplies that we use, because if you don't have those systems in place, you can't scale, because you don't know what people are doing.
Yep.
And so it's almost just consolidating in a way, because we had all these different needles and all these different syringes. So that was really
Right.
interesting. And through the growth and my transition to more leadership, and I want to get into scheduling in my calendar too, that type of structure people they like to have walls
Mhm.
around them, because when
Yep.
they don't, even though you may think they feel free and you're making them happy, it feels disheveled and
Yep.
unpredictable. Uh,
Yeah.
and the one other thing I wanted to mention about just calendar. So we had this crazy situation where somebody was sending people into video and film our consultations, which is totally illegal. Okay. And through that, I learned that I don't even know what I was just going to say.
It's okay. It'll come back to you. Consultation or
My
scheduling.
calendar. Oh, my calendar.
Yeah.
So they were also, this person was just looking online to see how booked I was as a provider, and it was making them feel better that they were more booked than I was. And I was like, wow, this person is really taking up a lot of time in their head. You know, they should just be doing something else, because I'm already on to like 10 miles away. Yeah. But I came to this amazing realization that my goal is to actually be less booked than more, and to have my revenue per appointment be higher. So my revenue per appointment at this point is $3,500,
Wow.
which is no, not per appointment, it's per hour. So it's $3,500, but maybe I see 2 patients in a day. And why do I want that? I want that because, number one, my other providers are busy. I transition my patients to them and they trust my providers. And number two, and most importantly, I'm available to dodge any bullet, to deal with bigger decision making, to deal with other growth, to deal with the business side. So I think that thought process of get busier, what's your percentage booked? Okay, to grow at the beginning is fine.
Yeah.
But as you become a leader and more of a CEO, you want to transition the other way.
Yeah. I love that. And so the person who was looking at your schedule, was this a competitor of yours?
I mean, I don't think they're a competitor. Maybe they think they are.
Okay.
But
It was just someone that was okay.
Well, it was another provider, and so you could say that, but to me and my brand,
I was just curious.
say.
I was like, that's also, in my opinion, just like you said, probably not the best use of their time. There's probably some more productive things they could be doing than stalking Dr. G's schedule to see how booked she is. So and this is going to take us into another great conversation. So I'm very glad that you added that in, is when you said your average revenue per hour, so 60 minutes is $3,500. That's an incredible number. And if we benchmark that against even AmSpa's, state of the industry, I think that they, in the most recent report that they published in June or July, the average spend per visit was like $530. So even if, let's just give the benefit of doubt and let's say like 2 people in an hour. So, okay, $1,000. You're at well over 3x of that. And so this is what I want to go into next, because when I saw that data come out in AmSpa's report, I was like, this number is so insanely low. Like it should, no one's average spend per visit should be that low. But I just think that also just shows that there's an opportunity to grow for, practices that aren't at that level. So if we go into this, if we go into how to increase your revenue per appointment, your revenue per hour, and to just be more productive and intentional with your time with patients, I think it would be cool to go into, one, how you approach, you and your team, what your consultation approach is and how you handle that. How long do you take? What is entailed in that approach? I want to go into that, and then also just some strategies that you have of increasing your per visit spend as well.
Yeah. So I will say SkyTail has been completely 100% instrumental in how I've grown, because I see the numbers every month, and some months I don't want to see as much as other months, but I would never know this. So their consulting division is awesome. And what I've also seen is not only me and my changes, but I've seen every one of my nurses be at $700 an hour or more, and they continue to go up, and they go up together, and they're consistent. And so it's not just my growth, it's showing their growth too. And then you wanted me to talk about 3 different things, but what was the first one?
Your consultation approach. So how much time do you spend? What do you do during like an initial patient consultation?
Yeah. So the entire time allotted is 45 minutes. Some of those patients come in, have filled out paperwork online, some haven't. So I typically get around 30 minutes. And my consultation, I always have another nurse with me. I want them to learn. Every consultation is different. And hopefully I have more than one. But we also do consultation and communication trainings with my team. So that's how they learn as well. We have specific communication trainings on speaking with patients in different ways, and consultations and approaches. My consultation has changed over the years. I feel you really have to, within milliseconds of walking in that room, get a snapshot of their clinical appearance and feel the energy, because you have to be a chameleon as a provider. You have to obviously be true to yourself and authentic, but you have to be able to gauge their temperature. And, you know, are they giving you eye contact? Are they looking down? Are they smiling? Are they mad that you were late? What is it about that 1 to 2 seconds? And then I decide from there, you know, how I approach it. And I say, I'm so happy you're here. How'd you find out about us? Those are usually the first words that come out of my mouth. It's so great to have you. And then they talk, they tell me their whole story. Oh, this person sent me, or I saw you on Google, or I've been following you for 20 years, or blah, blah, blah. And so after that, you know, I'm watching them talk. So that's my turn to analyze their facial features and their movement. And then I get into, okay, so we have 30 or so minutes. Let's talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm here to tailor this conversation to your needs, because what you don't want is them to leave and think, well, she didn't even talk about what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, instead of going top of the head to clavicle, it's like, let's tailor this. So if they don't bite onto that piece of information, that phrase, I'll say, we can talk about skincare, we can talk about skin health, we can talk about injectables, talk about any of those. And if they're then quiet still, you know, most people aren't, I'll say, you know, I can give you my just raw opinion, or I would like to also hear what you've had done in the past, because that's part of the story. It's very rare that people have had absolutely nothing. And if they've had absolutely nothing, they usually are using skincare that you can have a conversation about. And then I go into their goals. So we can talk about all of these treatments, but I need to know what your end game is and where and when you want to feel your best. Is there a time frame? We usually have, we give them a folder full of all this information as well as skincare samples, and it's a 6-month timeline. But I say, give me at least 3, and then we can reassess. How do you feel? What's working? What's not working? But after saying even the first couple of things I just said, you're going to have so much conversation going, you're going to be able to figure out what's next. I think the biggest next step is, okay, so then we get all of these treatments we've talked about. What's the price? And my genuine opinion is, I'm here to provide you with the options and the tools. You're there to help me decide the order you want to do this in. I'll tell you if I don't want that order to happen, if I don't like that order, and we'll tweak it. And then you'll decide financially, how can I afford this? We have Cherry, we have a VIP program, we have a bunch of different ways that they can help digest the cost. But at the end of the day, they're there to be seen by you, to be taken care of by you. They already trust you because they're in your chair, and they want to be spoken to with professionalism and respect. And they also want to be spoken to like a normal person.
Yeah.
And you want to get to know them. I mean, I want to know about their personal lives once it gets to a certain point. A patient today came in and she was just like, just tell me whatever. Just tell me what you want to tell me. I trust everything you say, you know? And I think you never want to take advantage of that, right? But that's the ultimate goal in my mind.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's and just hearing you talk about it, I was like making a list, because it is, you have a very thorough and well thought out consultation approach. And this is, you know this too, but a lot of people, one of the biggest areas of improvement for a lot of providers in this industry, and this is to be true just based off the AMSPA data of a nationwide average, it starts in the initial consultation. So to kind of reiterate what you went through, so you read the room when you first get in. And that's something you would think is common sense, but a lot of people probably don't do that. And so I think
They're thinking about themselves. The provider's thinking about themselves, not the patient.
Exactly.
Everything stops when I'm in that patient room.
Yeah. So true. So I love that you said that, like, that's, as soon as you get in the room, that's what you do first. You ask how they hear about us, which also another thing a lot of people don't do. Like, we need to know this information. How are patients finding our practice and finding me as a provider? Like, that is critical information every single practice owner in this industry needs to know. On a monthly basis, you need to know how every single patient came to your practice, or else we're going to struggle, even if we want to start talking about where you're spending your marketing dollars. Because if you're spending them in the wrong place where patients aren't coming from, you'll be in for certainly a rude awakening. And then you go through
what do you think about that? So we actually, I have never really paid for marketing, just boosting things on Instagram and Facebook. And I hired a company. They're great. I hired them because I was like, I just want to dive into a lot of marketing now and ads and this and that. And it was interesting. We ended up quitting it because it was $6,000 a month. And for me, that was a lot of money. And I ended up putting them on hold because when you have advertising and marketing that's not on brand, I think it's worse than no marketing.
Yeah.
So the communication wasn't there. We couldn't get the ads to say what we wanted to say. There was lost in translation everywhere. And I was like, you know what? I think we just need to pause this. So you are your best advertisement. And it is really important to ask your patient, like right when you walk in the room, how'd you hear about us? And it was really never those ads. So I was like, those need to go.
Yeah. No, that's a good insight. And that's something everyone should take away from this is if you are going to invest in marketing, which everyone has to do it at some point, like you know, especially if you're in a more competitive landscape, but you have to be tracking it and there has to be consistency. So obviously, you know, that was a good choice and decision made on your end. And going back to your consultation, you know, so you're asking the patient, what are you here for? If they're really quiet, you know, you'll start, you know, conversing around whatever it is. What have you done in the past? Time frame, folder. So you give them a folder with skincare samples. So what is in the
With
folder?
paper materials. Yeah, what's in the folder?
Okay.
So we have a booklet. Rach, do you want to grab me one actually? We have a booklet that we've developed that it's kind of a pain in the butt because then we keep adding services and we keep having to change the booklet. It'd be much better electronic. But anyway, it's pretty. So that we have the 6-month plan for treatments. And then we have all of my skincare products, if they're AM, PM, how to use them, because we give a little baggie of samples. I can bring one of those in here too. And that's my labor of love. My skincare company is a whole different ball game. And I want people to try them. I think we are stripped of the opportunity to try things. We get little samples here and there from some companies, but it's just few and far between. So I said, we're going to make these so people can just fall in love with it because it is really, really remarkable. Can you grab also just the skincare baggie?
Sure.
Sample baggie. So this is a folder, and it has, people are probably listening, not watching, but it's this booklet, and it has just everything about everything in here, face, body. We also have a skincare one that's separate. And then this only has one of the sheets, so I don't have a picture of this is the skincare like product recommendation sheet. I don't know where the treatment plan is. It's not in here, but I can find that. So yeah, simple. We used to have all the business cards of all the providers and all that. It just got too messy. We don't need that. They follow their Instagrams. They can find them a different way. Oh, here. Oh, perfect. She brought me another folder that's actually full. Oh, good.
My bad.
No, you didn't know. So personalized treatment plan. So that's this, and it's simple. You know, it's not overly complicated. We now know that we can print out invoices and treatment plans from aesthetic record, which is a nice feature they've added. And this is the little goodie bag, which is all these little products and these little droppers that are full of my skincare and oils and stuff. Look at this little toner bottle. It's just the cutest thing ever.
I love
like this cute thing. And then I have a card because I think patients get overwhelmed by this. And when they take it, I used to say when they take it, I was like, you know, I know you weren't interested in skincare at this visit, but I love this skincare line. It's my passion project. I don't care if you throw it in the trash when you leave, but you get it by being here. And then I have a card that gives an explanation of AM, PM, just to make it easier where they feel like it's digestible. Yeah. And we keep changing this, tweaking it, you know, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. And yeah, that's kind of it.
I love it. And for those, because we do put this episode on YouTube, so anyone who's watching the episode on YouTube, you'll be able to see that. But those, okay, I want to stop on this. I think that that's something that stands out for me is just, you can tell just by looking at like that booklet it's a beautiful booklet. It's not like you just printed out paper and stapled it together and you're giving it to someone. Like that's a beautifully branded, gorgeous booklet. And if we think about this too, because in some cases, let's just say a consumer, let's just say they have 2 consultations with 2 different providers. So one of them is G-Face and one of them is someone else. If I left, and this is coming from me from a consumer standpoint, if I were to, you know, if I were, you know, choosing between providers. So if I put myself in that person's shoes and I walk out of a consultation with G-Face, and I was handed this beautiful booklet, a personalized treatment plan, skincare instructions, skincare samples, all of these things. And then I go to another provider and I left with nothing. I would be like, what's going on with this other provider? Like, I feel like there are just so many things that we can do that don't, I mean, obviously, you know, putting those together costs money, but it's not a massive, massive amount of money, I would assume. But it's just like these little extra things that we can do to just help ourselves and our practice and our unique approach to aesthetic medicine stand out from someone else. So I think that's brilliant that you put those together. Those are beautiful. Like, I just know if I was a patient and I got that and then went somewhere else and I didn't get that, I'd be like, this is a no-brainer. I'm going back to G-Face and I'm going to spend my money there, just because it makes you feel like you care a lot more. You care a lot more about the patient and their well-being and their skincare goals and all of these things. So on the skincare question too, because this is something I specifically wanted to go through, because you obviously have your own skincare line. And so I want to first go back to, because we touched on it a little bit in the other episode around, you know, the big tech company that came after you and you had to change the name and all of that. But private label skincare, I think this is a conversation I want to have because I get asked it all the time, is how did you make the decision to do private label versus offering, you know, the tons of different amazing medical grade brands that we have? Like, what was your MO behind that decision?
I'm a creator, period. It's just my brain. And I'm a dermatopathologist. So I'm heavy into the chemistry, wanting to know why, building things and understanding the ingredients. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
Period. I wanted the challenge. I wanted to create something beautiful. And I wanted something that really worked with nourishment and treatment, because I do agree there's a ton of amazing brands on the market. The education isn't there. You don't have somebody from the company. First of all, they don't have the degrees we have in medicine. Second of all, they're not there next to you to recommend products to every patient. Yeah. So where is the education? Because everyone's skin is different. And I truly believe some of the skincare companies out there, they have amazing products. So my patient will come in and say, I use SkinCeuticals, I use Alpharet, I use Revision. That's amazing. However, if you're using all of the wrong products for your skin, you're going to destroy your skin, over exfoliate, over dry, over retinolize, whatever it is. So mine was really, truly intentional about nourishment and treatment. And you literally see a difference in your skin within a week. I mean, it's night and day. And I'm not a salesperson, but I guess I am, because I'm a huge, passionate believer in it. So where do those intersect? I don't care what skincare they use, but I do require, for my patients that spend a lot of money, I say, I require you to wear a sunscreen and a retinol. I don't want to treat you if you don't, because there's no point. You don't go to the dentist and not brush your teeth, period. I know that's an overused analogy, but it's true. So my skincare is a blend of private label and customized products. All of the, well, not all the packaging actually. So if you do research on private label, specifically with sunscreens and retinols, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through the FDA to get another approval for something that already exists. There are a lot of amazing formulations for sunscreens out there. And I didn't find it necessary to spend that money to recreate something that's already created. It doesn't make any sense. Now, if I actually put time and energy into growing and scaling the skincare company, which is one of my goals for 2025, that may change. I do have a chemist in Paris that I've used, one in Miami, to help formulate some lip oils and things, but they've kind of taken a back seat just because of how busy I've been. So when it came to the ingredients, those were already formulated and I made the packaging. And then for a bunch of the other products, they had a base kind of formula and I was able to customize other ingredients within them. So, and then I was able to customize the product packaging that I ship from overseas, ship it to the lab. I made custom boxes, ship it to the lab. So it's a ton of coordination to get all of these moving pieces coming together. So even the tops sometimes the pumps don't come with the bottles. So it's a lot of coordination. I did a lot of it during COVID. It was one of my big passion projects during COVID. And then I also did my conference during that time too. So I did need the downtime to be able to create it. It was a ton of work.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a ton of work. And I will say, based on, because there's not that many people in the industry, I will say, that have immense success with private label. If you do it the right way and you spend a lot of time and energy and effort and dedication, which that's just who you are in your blood, like to your core, that's who you are. So I love that you kind of went in. As you mentioned, you're a creator. And if we go on the skincare route for a second, just because this is a challenge most providers have, because I hear it all the time, is how do you increase adoption and usage with your practice's retail skincare sales, just period? Because it's as we know, like even if we think about nationwide statistics, like statistically, I think it's like, 15 to 20% of your non-surgical revenue should be coming from skincare. And I can say in full certainty, just through going, through a lot of our clients' financials, in the last several years, most practices fall under 5%. To be honest, it's really, really low. And it's a huge opportunity for growth. It's a huge opportunity for clinical outcomes, retention, better photos, all of these things. So what are some of your like go-to like tips, strategies, or like pieces of advice in how to ensure your patients, one, or buy your skincare and then continue to keep using it?
There's some phrases that I have. So we have it on the walls in all the rooms, but I put it on my patients. I don't let them just look at it. So they get it on them. And if they like, oh no, I already have a sunscreen, I use Goop or whatever, I'm like, that's an amazing brand. Keep using it, but you'll run out of that soon. So let me give you another option. See what this feels like. So there's no pressure. They're not leaving like she's trying to sell me something. I would want to know another option. I mean, maybe it goes on sale and you're like, this is amazing. So we also incorporate it into all of our treatments. So we're coming up with, for our third location, a much bigger spa situation, not the medical side. And that will have very tightly integrated skincare application and whatnot with those treatments. So that's obviously a way, because the minute somebody feels their skin after this stuff, they're like, wow, that changed my life. The other thing I do, and this is not available with other brands, is I say we have a combination of travel and full sizes. So if you want to try both cleansers, why not try the two travels? It's not a fortune. You don't have to feel locked in. What else? I'm trying to think. I think skincare is, it's challenging because, speaking of financials, I had a thought strategist for quite some time, and he would have all my companies up on a whiteboard and he would look at the numbers and he would just go back to the skincare line and he would be like, Gretchen, you're missing something here, because skincare is not labor intensive for me, right? Injecting is, team is, it's that labor. And I was bringing in almost the same amount at one point from my skincare that I did nothing with, like advertising wise, and G-Face, that's not the case anymore. But the return on investment is huge. But what I actually personally struggle with is the advertising side of it, because I've hired PR experts in the past. They're really expensive for a small company. And they all say it takes 6 months to get started and ramp up and all this. I'm like, I don't have that time. And I don't see any return. And I've kind of been burned by a couple of those companies. So I do have a hard time with it. I think TikTok, I'm not huge on TikTok, but that's a good place to go. Obviously, Instagram, when I would used to do my get ready with me's and explain the products more and all that, we had an audience for that. So I haven't found the secret sauce yet. I really haven't. But I know what to do with patients in the office. It's getting, because we ship nationwide, it's getting out there.
No, and I appreciate the transparency too. We're all still trying to figure things out as we go. And I first of all, good. And these are just little things that I took away that are simple things that other providers could take away. Is one, everyone should be using an SPF and a retinol. Like that's kind of, because you need something to turn your skin over and then you need to protect it. So that's, you would think more people like articulate that too. But, in a lot of consultation, skincare may not even be a part of the conversation. You put it on the patient and that's something good too. And, a lot of, I forget who it was. Someone I did a podcast with, I think at some point last year. I think it was Katie Martin with Dr. Amanda Holden's practice. And she said something like she always physically has the products with her in the practice. And it sounds like you do something similar because you're putting them on the patient. And I feel like we're in such a personalized business that that all providers should be doing these things when you're actually, speaking to a patient about skincare. And then travel sizes, that's great. And that's something like I would agree to. Like, that's a much easier conversation or objection to overcome than committing to a full size medical grade skincare product or products.
Yeah, especially when it's getting somebody into a sunscreen or getting somebody into a retinol. It's just try this. It's 25,
Yeah.
35 bucks.
Yep.
Will last you a bunch of weeks and see how you feel. I also just think it feels good to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And some of the scents we have they're all natural oils, which doesn't mean you can't have an allergy, but they're not fragrance based, which is something we want to avoid.
Yep.
But natural oils, and they just leave this amazing just scent on you, and it feels good and it smells good. So
I love it. And looking
yeah.
at the clock, I'm like, no, we have a hard
I
stop in 10
know.
minutes. So there was something, first of all, thank you, Gretchen, because I like the direction this went into, because there were a lot of specific takeaways that people can take away from this episode, and hopefully, have it as an inspiration of things that they could potentially implement in their business and in their practices. So there was one specific thing I wanted to make sure that we covered in this episode, just because knowing you as a person, there are so many times where I don't know how you function, to be honest, is I wanted to go through time management. Okay. So time management and so to set the stage, Gretchen has 3 beautiful kids. She has her 3rd location practice up. She runs a conference, she trains, she speaks, she has a skincare line. She's going for 20 plus locations. Like, girl, you are like, you don't know, like, when do you have time for yourself and just managing this? Because obviously when you are an entrepreneur and you have these massive ambitious goals, and you're a mom and all of these other things that you're dealing with, and your 3 kids are young as well. Time management is something I really wanted to pick your brain on, because we all know that your time equals money. So how do you choose where to spend it when you're, when it comes to a balance of personal life and business and all of these other things? I don't know if you have any insight onto like how do you create your own calendar?
Yeah. So I do have an executive assistant. I brought her on this year, and she's been wonderful. And she doesn't just do my calendar. She also books all my flights. She edits my PowerPoint presentations. She has created, I think we're now up to like 900 blogs that she's putting on her. So she is open to anything. She's amazing. So she's really, really helped me. I also have help. I don't have family around here. My parents are still in Florida, but I have an amazing nanny. And so that's always, just managing people. And so she's really, really helpful with my kids. And I've sacrificed a lot, and I don't sit here to deny that. But my sacrifices are becoming less and less, because I have incredible minds in the company that are building it and growing it with me. And, my sacrifices, when I started the company, I would work till 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I was absolutely a lunatic. But now I'm a lunatic in different ways, because there are so many moving parts, and you do need a village. But I also, through all of the years, I have so many amazing people around me, personally and professionally, that I don't hesitate to reach out to. And I think as I grew, even a couple of years ago, I didn't really want to ask for help. I felt I could do it all myself, and I felt I could do it the best. And now, not only do I know I definitely can't do it the best, and I can't do it the fastest, but you want to do things with people and bring them along on your journey. So that's really helped me. But from a time management perspective, it's still not perfect. We have my patient calendar and my Google calendar, and they're all linked together. And I'm always looking forward at my calendar. I'm on it all the time. I'll look at it 5 minutes before, and I'll already forget it. So I'm always looking at it. And there's, little things to change. But I think managing my home life with the calendar, I just started doing, which has changed my life. And then my personal life and my professional life, and patients and meetings and stuff. So it is all integrated. My assistant is great at it, but also my team helps me a lot. And I also just think, as a person, I do things extremely quickly. It's not always the best, but I'm an extreme multitasker, and I do things very, very quickly. which is a blessing and a curse. Usually it's good. But yeah, but I do
Yeah.
forget a lot. And I think I need to look into my hormone levels.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of us do. But
But
I want to go back because you said you just do things really quickly. And I feel like
mhm,
this is also just in, you know, with all the people in the industry that I would consider to be very high performing individuals, something that a lot of them have in common is they just make decisions very, very quickly. And so I assume that, you mentioned it, you're just really quick to do things, you're multitasking. Even if something's not perfect, you're going to address it right then and there. And I do think that that is something that separates a lot of people, is just how fast you're making decisions and how fast you're executing on anything,
yeah,
even if it's something really tiny or really big, because there's always going to be that other bucket of people that take weeks and weeks to think about something, and they could have done that 3 weeks ago and been on to something else.
yeah. I
On
will
the
say though, it's changed because it does depend on the significance of the decision,
Yes. Yeah.
and I have to make more larger decisions. And the more I've gotten into that, I do feel like I've had decision paralysis of sorts for some time. So I give myself grace, but overall, I still am in the process of making a decision. But for the bigger ones, I've gotten slower,
Yeah.
um, because I think I'm impacting more people. I'm impacting, yeah, more people, and there's more moving parts. So that's been interesting.
Yeah. Definitely. And to
Yeah.
kind of wind down, because I know we have a couple minutes left, something I would like to know, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners would know, is on the topic of time management and just balance overall, like when you're constantly just in a state of just nonstop busyness and you're doing a million things, you have a million different things on your plate. How do you keep yourself, like, even like mentally, like,
Mhm.
sane? Like do you take time for yourself? What are things that, are there any type of daily habits or things that you implement in your day-to-day life to kind of just help with the chaos of everything, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, I used to be a lot better at that, and it is situational. Right now, I have a couple big weeks ahead of me, and I think I've had zero personal time, but after that, I
Yeah.
will, relax a little bit and try. I try to get massages, so I've been doing Thai massages, and they really get in there. They release stress for me, and I love massages. I um, have treatments here at the office. But other than that, I did just force myself to go away for a couple days to purely relax. But I'm always kind of on and working. I
Yeah.
do love that though.
Yeah.
So on a day to day, I wouldn't say I'm the best at doing things for me, but that's okay for me right now.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
love it. And once again, I appreciate your true, honest transparency and authenticity, as always. So as we wind down here, what exciting things do you have coming up, whether it's rest of the year or beginning of 2025? And then are there any future predictions you have for the next 12 months of the medical aesthetics landscape?
Yeah, so exciting to have the holidays and just really be with my kids and um, enjoying that. I have a conference this coming week in Arizona, and then done with that, going to Paris in January, speaking there and doing a couple courses and advisory boards, which is huge. And then I'm really kind of cutting down on conferences, focusing on the company, opening our third location, hopefully by May 1, and enjoying another summer at our Cape Cod location and really just growing and expanding the teams. So that's really what I look for in 2025. In the medical aesthetic space, I have so many thoughts. I think that we're really pushing ultrasound in a way that's going to give a point of care ultrasound certification for people so they feel they can really bring it into the space. So I think that's going to amp up even more. We're bringing in new technologies, ones that are based on the finger. So that's huge. I see more of a shift to culture-based group practices versus solo practitioners. And they're both amazing, but I think that people need the support. I think the industry has gotten really tough to be alone. There's a lot of standards, there's a lot of requirements, and you know, you want to accelerate the right way. So I think we're going to move more towards that group based. I think private equity is going to continue to consolidate. I think we're going to see more of that buying of medical aesthetic practices whenever it's right for those people. And I think we're going to see some global involvement in that. So global companies using their funds to even buy up the companies that have been buying our medical aesthetic practices. So I see some of that already happening, and even some more international toxins coming to market. So yeah, there's a lot happening.
Yeah, no, I love it. There's certainly a lot of exciting things in the industry, and we'll bring you back on next
For
year.
episode 3.
And yeah, we'll do a part 3 in 2025, maybe Q1. And I think the next time I'll see you will be in Paris, because I don't think I'll see you again until MCAS happens. So I'll be excited to reconnect with you there. But Gretchen, as always, just thank you for your time. You're an incredible human being. I've already said this many times, but you continue to inspire me. And I know how busy you are, so I'm just very grateful that you were able to come on a part 2 of the True to Form podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me. You're incredible. I also look up to you and just honor you in every way. You're so amazing inside and out. And I can't wait to see you soon.
I love it.
January will be here soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Gretchen.